Alex Turner, a Mountain Patrol police officer in Wyoming, was checking an old rental cabin just minutes before a brutal snowstorm hit. He thought it would be a simple routine check, until his K9 partner, Max, suddenly barked and clawed at the front door like someone inside was begging for help. Alex pushed the door open. It wasn't even locked. Inside, in the freezing dark, he found a young woman shivering violently in a broken wheelchair, her wrists bruised, her eyes filled with terror. She whispered that her fiancé had left her there. But the way she kept glancing at the window told Alex the real danger wasn't the storm at all. Something, or someone, was hunting her through the woods. And the moment the wind slammed against the cabin walls, Alex realized he wasn't just dealing with a rescue. He had just stepped into a nightmare. Please support us by subscribing to the channel. The storm had been building across the range since late afternoon. Heavy clouds rolled in from the west, like a dark tide swallowing the sky, dragging the wind behind them in long, cold howls that rushed through the pines. The mountains here were unforgiving even on mild days, but in winter they became something ancient and unyielding. The kind of place where a man's breath could freeze before he spoke his second sentence. The kind of place where silence had weight and memory. A silence shaped by things that had happened long before anyone living could remember and would remain long after they were gone. Officer Alex Turner knew these storms well. He had been the Mountain Patrol sheriff for nearly 10 years, stationed out of a small rural substation 50 miles down the valley. Up here, response times were measured in hours, sometimes more. People learned to solve their own problems, or learned not to have problems at all. The cold didn't forgive mistakes. Nature didn't negotiate. Alex liked the quiet, or at least he had convinced himself he did. It was easier than admitting how much life had taken from him already. The quiet let him breathe. It was a kind of truce with the world. After his divorce, after the fallout with his brother, after the department budget cuts that left him more alone on the job than ever, he had decided this was fine. Solitude was simple, predictable, safe in its own harsh way. He sat behind the wheel of his patrol truck, tires crunching over packed snow as he made his way up the narrow access road toward the ridge. The windshield wipers thumped steadily, sweeping back the accumulation of white only for more flakes to immediately replace it. Max, his German shepherd partner, sat calmly in the passenger seat, ears forward, eyes alert, tail still and low. A picture of patience and readiness. Max didn't bark unless it mattered. That was something Alex appreciated more than most. Talking was overrated. Observation was everything. A call had come in earlier that day. An unused mountain cabin owned by the county needed to be checked before the storm made the trail unreachable. Standard procedure. Quick look. Lock the door. Head back before the worst of it rolled in. Something that should have taken 20 minutes, maybe 30. The truck skidded slightly on a bend, and Alex corrected with practiced ease, breath slow, steady. He didn't rush. Rushing got you killed in the mountains. He glanced at Max, and Max glanced back, a silent exchange built from years of partnership. They didn't need words. They rarely ever had. The snow thickened as he approached the cabin clearing. The structure stood small and plain against the white wilderness, its roof buried beneath a thickening coat of ice. Smoke did not rise from the chimney. No footprints disturbed the ground outside. It looked empty, safe, undisturbed. The way remote property usually looked before winter swallowed it entirely. But Max's body shifted. Not tense, not afraid, focused. It was subtle, but Alex saw it instantly. The way Max leaned slightly forward, the stillness in the dog's breath, the narrowing of his eyes. Alex cut the engine. Something? He asked quietly. Max didn't look at him. He just stared at the cabin door, ears pricked, muscles subtle but primed. That was enough. Alex didn't question instincts, not Max's and not his own. He stepped out of the truck, boots sinking into the snow. The cold hit him like a physical force, sharp and merciless. He kept his hand near his belt, not tense, simply ready. The wind knifed across the clearing, carrying the smell of pine sap and ice. He listened. There was no sound, no movement. But Max was already at the door. The front door of the cabin stood slightly ajar. Not enough to notice unless you were looking. But they were looking. "No one should be here," Alex murmured. "Max, hold." Max froze, waiting for the command that never came. Alex pushed the door open with slow, measured pressure, the hinges giving a soft groan like a sigh from something old. Inside, the cabin was dark except for the faint gray light leaking in from the window. The air was colder inside than out, as if the cold itself had settled there and stayed. And then he saw her. A young woman sat slumped in a wheelchair near the fireplace, wrapped in a coat that had clearly been expensive once, but was now crumpled and stained by the journey. Her hair, long, blonde, tangled with melted snow, fell around her face. Her skin was pale, lips trembling from the cold. The wheelchair appeared damaged. One wheel bent, a spoke cracked, like it had hit something hard, or been thrown. But it was her eyes that Alex noticed first. Fear. Real fear. Not the kind people fake for sympathy. The kind that lives in the bones. Max approached her slowly, silently, with the careful awareness of a creature who understood pain when he saw it. He did not bark. He simply came close enough to exist beside her. She did not flinch. She just looked at him like he was the first safe thing she had seen in days. Alex crouched beside her, not too close, and kept his voice low, grounded, steady. "You're all right. You're safe. I'm Sheriff Turner. This is Max. We're here to help." Her eyes lifted to his, and he could see the exhaustion behind them, the kind that comes from running, from surviving, from losing too much along the way. "My name—" Her voice cracked. "My name is Leah." Her hands shook, not only from cold, from memory. Alex didn't press, didn't ask why she was here, didn't ask how she got there. Not yet. There would be time for questions later. Right now there was one priority. "Let's get you warm." He moved with quiet efficiency. He lit the fire. He wrapped her in blankets. He heated water and made tea that tasted like pine smoke and metal, but was warm enough to bring life back into frozen fingers. Max lay down near her feet, close enough for warmth but not crowding, protective without being imposing. Leah stared into the fire as though it held answers she didn't know how to say. The cabin crackled softly. The storm pounded outside. The world shrank to the golden glow of one small flame. After a while, her voice came again. Soft, broken. "I didn't know where else to go." Alex didn't respond with sympathy. Sympathy could drown a person already fighting to breathe. He simply nodded. "You came here," he said. "That's enough for tonight." Max's tail thumped once. Just once. Agreement. Outside, the wind howled against the cabin like something alive. Inside, for the first time in a long time for all three of them, there was warmth. The storm did not let up through the night. Wind rattled the shutters like restless hands, and snow pressed against the windows in thick, ghostly waves. The cabin was warm inside, the fire burning steady, but the air between Alex Turner and Leah felt fragile, like a thread that might snap if either of them moved too quickly. Max lay nearby on the braided rug, his gray and tan coat rising and falling with slow breaths. But his eyes were open, alert, tracking every sound she made. Leah sat wrapped in a wool blanket on the couch, her injured ankle resting on a folded coat. The heat had begun returning to her cheeks, but the exhaustion beneath her eyes was unmistakable. She was young, late 20s maybe, with long, dark hair that was slightly wavy where the snow hadn't matted it, and pale skin that had reddened from the cold. Her hands trembled when she brought the cup of tea to her lips, though whether from fear or cold, Alex couldn't tell. Alex sat across from her at the small wooden table, his elbows braced on his knees, staring into the flames. He was not someone who hurried words. His face was sharply defined, with a jaw shaped by years of determination and a straight nose that had been broken once and never healed clean. His dark hair was short but unruly from the storm, and his beard was thick enough to show that he didn't live a life of vanity. He carried himself like a man who had seen enough of the world to know when not to speak. Leah finally broke the silence. "I know you're wondering." Her voice was quiet, rough from cold and emotion. Alex didn't look at her. "I don't ask questions until people are warm, fed, and breathing. Now you're all three. So yes, I'm wondering." Her hands tightened around the mug. She stared at the fire instead of him. "I was supposed to get married," she said. 2 days ago. His name is Vincent. He's influential, wealthy. The kind of man people don't say no to." Alex's brow lowered slightly. The name didn't matter. Not yet. The tone did. Leah continued. "But I said no. I tried to leave. He didn't like that. So he—" Her voice cracked. "He tried to keep me from walking out. Literally." She gestured to her ankle, to the chair that still sat by the door where Alex had left it earlier when he carried it in. Its bent wheel leaned awkwardly. "He pushed me. Hard. The chair hit the wall. The wheel snapped. And I didn't get a second chance to run." The cabin fell silent except for the wind's low groan. Alex didn't move, but Max lifted his head, ears tilting toward Leah like he understood something in the tremor of her voice. Leah continued, "I waited until he left the room. And I crawled. I dragged myself out of that house. I didn't even take my coat. I just went." Her lips parted, and for a moment she seemed small, breakable. "But I had help," she said. Her fingers brushed the strap of the leather bag on the floor beside her. It was sleek, expensive, far too expensive for a woman claiming to have escaped in desperation. Alex's eyes flicked to it. Expensive. Designed. Not survival gear. "You brought that bag with you?" he said quietly. She hesitated. Just briefly, but enough for him to see. "Yes," she whispered. Alex stood. He walked to the stove and ladled more tea into his mug. The motion was slow, controlled. "You're not lying about being scared," he said, "and the ankle's real. But you didn't leave empty-handed. You brought something that mattered." Leah's breath caught. Her fingers tightened around the blanket. And then she got defensive. The instinct was immediate. "You think because I had one thing with me that I'm lying?" she snapped, voice rising just enough to betray fear under it. "People don't escape perfectly. You grab what you can." Alex didn't react to the tone. He didn't even look at her. "I didn't say you were lying." He took a slow sip of tea. "I said there's something you're not saying. That's different." The room was thick with unspoken truth. Max rose silently and walked to Leah. He sat beside her, staring up. Not threatening, just watching. Leah deflated, shoulders sinking, blanket falling looser around her. "He controls everything," she said. "My accounts, my calls, my life, everything. And people do what he says. They don't question him." Her voice trembled again, this time with anger rather than fear. "I brought the bag because it's the only thing he doesn't know I have. And if he finds me, It will be because I didn't plan well enough." Alex leaned back against the counter, arms crossed. "Will he come looking?" Leah laughed under her breath, bitter and exhausted. "He doesn't look. He sends someone, and they don't miss." Something cold settled in Alex's chest. He recognized the tone. Not dramatics, not exaggeration. Familiar fear. The kind that comes from someone powerful who has no consequences. Alex sat down at the table again. He let silence breathe for a moment. "You can stay here tonight," he said. "Storm will pin us in anyway. But in the morning we'll figure out where to go next." Leah blinked. The relief hit her so hard she exhaled like she had been underwater. "Thank you," she whispered. Alex didn't say you're welcome. He didn't offer comfort. But he stoked the fire higher, and Max curled closer to her legs. And that, for now, was enough. But later, when Leah slept, Alex didn't. He sat at the table with the lamp low and Max lying beside him. He opened the leather bag Leah had tried to keep close. Not rifling, not violating, just looking. Inside, documents, legal ones, thick, sealed, bank certifications, a portfolio statement. Alex exhaled a slow, controlled breath. She wasn't just running from a fiancé. She was running from power, from money, and a lot of it. He looked over at Leah once more, sleeping curled on the couch, face soft in the warm light. No wonder she was scared. No wonder Max had barked like his life depended on it. This wasn't just a storm. This was the edge of something dangerous, something that had just crossed his doorstep. And now, it was his problem too. The storm had calmed by morning, but the world was still locked in white silence. Snow lay in deep drifts over the hills and pines, the landscape smoothed to soft, pale curves. The sky was gray and heavy, as though the storm had only paused to catch its breath before returning. The cabin was quiet except for the soft crackling of logs and the occasional, watchful breath of Max, lying on his rug but wide awake. Alex Turner stood at the window with a mug in his hand, not drinking from it. He stared out across the frozen valley, where the road twisted in a faint line under the snow. He didn't speak, but his jaw was set in the way of someone who felt a shift in the air. Years on mountain patrols had trained him to notice the smallest changes, the silence that was a little too still, the cold that felt like something holding its breath. Leah sat on the couch behind him, wrapped in one of his wool blankets. She was still pale, but stronger than the night before. Her dark hair was brushed now, falling around her shoulders in soft waves. A bruise had surfaced high on her cheekbone, faint and yellow-purple beneath her fair skin. It gave her a fragile look, but her eyes were alert. Too alert. Like prey that knew the predator hadn't stopped chasing. Alex didn't turn from the window. "You didn't tell me everything last night?" Leah didn't react at first, just watched the flames dance in the stone fireplace. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet. "No, I didn't." Alex waited. He didn't press. Silence had a way of pulling truth into the open. Leah's fingers tightened in the blanket. "He's not just wealthy. Vincent's connected. He has security people, lawyers, men who erase problems. If he thinks someone helped me..." She swallowed. "He doesn't forget." Max lifted his head, ears pricking, sensing the spike in her heartbeat before any human could detect it. Alex finally turned from the window. His face was calm, but his eyes were unreadable. "Then you should have told me sooner." "I know." Leah met his gaze. "But if I told you too much, you might have thrown me back out there. I didn't think you would believe me." Alex didn't answer. He simply returned his gaze to the window. That was when Max stood, Not aggressively, not stiff, but alert, focused, his ears locked forward, his body leaned toward the door. The soft rumble in his chest was not fear. It was recognition of threat. Alex set his mug down without a sound. He crossed the room in 3 quiet steps and flipped the switch that cut the cabin lights. The room dropped into dim orange glow from the fire. Leah stiffened. "What is it?" Alex didn't answer. He moved to the side of the window frame, not in front of it, and peered out from the edge. Down the hill, just visible against the line of dark pines, sat a black SUV. Large, expensive, engine running. The type of vehicle that did not simply wander up a mountain road in a blizzard. Alex's voice was low, controlled. "Stay away from the windows." Leah's breath trembled. "No," she whispered. "Already. So soon." The SUV didn't move. It just sat there, headlights dimmed, engine humming in the cold. Alex studied it in silence. The vehicle's windows were tinted, impossible to see inside. Someone was watching, waiting. Max moved to the door, silent except for the soft tap of his claws on wood. He positioned himself squarely in front of it, head low, muscles coiled. He looked at Alex, not asking what to do, just ready. Alex spoke barely above a whisper. "Good boy." Leah's voice broke. "Alex, that's him, or someone he sent." Her hands pressed hard into the blanket, knuckles white. "We can't let him see me. We can't let him know I'm here." Alex didn't answer. He was thinking, calculating. The safest move was not confrontation. The safest move was stillness. He crossed the room and pulled down the thick wool curtains, leaving only the faint flicker of firelight. Then he turned off the lamp. The cabin fell into a warm half-dark. He sat at the table. Max didn't move from his post. Leah watched him with a fear that came from memory, not imagination. "Alex," she whispered, "what are we going to do?" He didn't raise his voice. He didn't rush. He simply looked at her with the steadiness of someone who had seen danger before. "We wait," he said. "If he doesn't see movement, he may think the cabin is empty. The storm makes it hard to track. We don't make noise. We don't draw attention. We let him leave. If he leaves." Leah nodded, even though everything inside her wanted to run. Minutes passed. The SUV did not move. Snow swirled around it in gentle spirals. Exhaust plumed softly in the cold air. The figure inside was invisible. Alex spoke again, quieter. "Max is watching the door. If someone tries to approach, I'll know." Leah looked down at Max. The dog's body was still as stone, eyes focused, waiting. It was strange. Comfort, in the form of a German shepherd's silent vigilance. The cabin breathed with the storm. Wind against wood. Fire crackling. No one spoke. Then, headlights flicked brighter. The SUV rolled forward slowly, wheels crunching snow. It moved up the road, not toward the cabin, but past it, disappearing along the ridge path until the trees swallowed it whole. Leah exhaled all at once, her hands shaking. Alex stayed still another full minute. Only then did he speak. "He knows something," Alex said. "Maybe not where you are, but enough to start looking." Leah closed her eyes. "He won't stop, Alex. Not until he has control again." Alex rubbed the bridge of his nose with a slow, thoughtful motion. "Then we need to prepare." Max finally relaxed, lowering himself back onto the rug. But his eyes didn't close. The storm wasn't over. It was only changing shape. The storm weakened overnight. By morning, the world outside the cabin was brighter, though the snow still lay deep and untouched across the mountains. The sky was pale blue now, washed out and cold, a color that belonged to air too thin and too sharp to breathe comfortably. The trees stood heavy with frost, their branches bowed under the weight of the storm that had passed. It looked peaceful, but peace was never what it seemed. Inside the cabin, the silence held a different kind of pressure. It felt like something unspoken was waiting between Alex and Leah, thick and close, like the final breath before a question is asked. Alex Turner stood at the kitchen counter slicing wood-smoked bacon with steady, methodical movements. The scent rose warmly, familiar and grounding. His posture was controlled, his shoulders squared, his jaw set in the quiet intensity of a man who has learned to survive by not reacting too quickly. His dark hair was still damp from melting snow after his morning check outside, and his beard caught the early light in rough angles. He had slept little, if at all, but he moved with a tired intention that was more habit than rest. Max sat near him, upright and attentive, his gaze flicking between Alex and Leah. The German Shepherd was built lean and strong, with the intelligent almond-brown eyes of a dog that had worked beside humans long enough to understand the weight of silence. He didn't wag his tail. He was watching. Leah was at the small wooden table, her blanket gathered around her shoulders. She looked warmer, healthier than when Alex had carried her into the cabin 2 nights earlier. The color had returned to her cheeks, and her long, dark hair fell cleanly down her back now. She still wore the borrowed flannel shirt and thick socks Alex had given her. There was softness in her features, high cheekbones, a gentle jawline, but her eyes were tired, ringed with shadows from fear that had not left her. Alex finished cooking and placed a plate in front of her. Bacon, eggs, toasted bread. She nodded thank you, but he didn't sit. He stayed standing with his own plate at the counter. For a few minutes, the only sounds were the quiet clink of cutlery and the shifting of logs in the fire. Leah finally broke the silence. "You saw the SUV too," she said softly, "so I wasn't imagining it." Alex didn't look up from his plate. "I saw it." Leah set her fork down. Her fingers hesitated, then tightened. "You think they'll be back?" Alex didn't answer immediately. He chewed one slow bite, swallowed, then spoke. "Yes." Leah's breath trembled. She looked toward the window as if expecting to see the vehicle waiting there now. The view was nothing but pale snow and stillness. Alex's voice was low but even. "We'll stay quiet today. No lights after dark except the fire. I'll reinforce the back entrance. If they try to come up the ridge, Max will warn us." Max flicked an ear at the sound of his name, confirming he was listening to every word. Leah nodded. "Alex, thank you. For helping me. For not asking me to leave." Alex still didn't look at her. "I didn't say you could stay," he said calmly. The words were gentle but sharp, like a truth that needed to be spoken. Leah's throat tightened. "Right, I just don't know where else to go." Alex finally looked up. His gray eyes were steady, not unkind, but guarded. "I need the truth from you now. Not pieces, not half of it, all of it." Leah froze. He continued, voice even. "You said he hurt you, that he controls people, that you ran. I believe that. Max believed you." He glanced at the dog, then back at her. "But I know when someone is leaving something out." Leah's hands trembled slightly, not from cold, but from memory. She took a breath. "I told you the truth. Just not the whole of it. I was afraid if I did, you'd throw me back outside. I didn't know who you were." Alex leaned forward slightly, elbows on knees, gaze never leaving hers. "And now?" Leah exhaled slowly. "Now I know you're the kind of man who doesn't walk away when someone needs help." The words hung there, heavy, sincere. Max moved then, padding toward Leah. He sat by her chair, close but not touching, just watching her face. Alex's eyes flicked briefly to the dog. Max had always been his measure of trust, his anchor, his compass. Leah continued, voice lower. Vincent didn't just want control because he loved me. He wanted control because of what I'm connected to. I didn't just leave him. I left his world where money moves quietly and people disappear quietly with it. Alex felt a shift, a soft click in the puzzle he had been assembling. You're saying he doesn't want you back out of jealousy, Alex said quietly. He wants you back because losing you costs him something. Leah nodded, her eyes glistening. Yes. Alex inhaled, long and slow through his nose. Then his gaze lowered to her legs. She stiffened. She had been careful the last 2 days, careful how she sat, careful how she moved, but not careful enough. Her ankle was injured. But the rest of her body? Stronger than she had pretended. Alex set his plate down. Leah, he said softly, but firmly. Stand up. She froze. Alex, Stand up. Max shifted again, tense, not aggressive, but caught between them, sensing change. Leah's eyes filled, not with fear, but with shame. She stood. Slowly. Carefully. But she stood. Her ankle wobbled slightly, but the paralysis, the helplessness, those had been exaggerated. She wrapped her arms around herself, not meeting his eyes. I didn't lie about the injury, she whispered. But the chair, that was for sympathy. I needed someone to help me. I needed someone to see me as worth saving. Alex's jaw tightened. Not in anger, in something deeper, something that looked dangerously close to disappointment. And you chose me, he said quietly. Leah finally met his gaze. Max chose you first, she said, voice barely above a whisper. And I trusted him. The cabin went still. Max's ears twitched, eyes moving between them, waiting to understand whether the ground beneath them had cracked or held. Alex didn't move toward her, but he didn't step back either. We don't survive out here by lying, he said. People get killed when trust breaks. Leah nodded. A tear slipped down her cheek. I know, she whispered, but I didn't break trust to hurt you. I did it because I was desperate, and because I finally saw one person in my life who might help me without wanting something in return. Alex looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Once. Not forgiveness, not acceptance, but acknowledgement. We move forward from here, he said. No more lies. No more, she whispered. Max finally relaxed, lying down at Leah's feet, not choosing sides, choosing both. Outside, the mountains waited. Inside, trust was fragile, but real. The light that morning was thin and pale, drifting through the frosted windows in soft, muted sheets. The cabin had grown quieter in the hours since Leah had revealed her partial deception. The silence between her and Alex Turner was not hostile, but it was careful. Like two people walking over ice, neither of them was certain could hold their weight. Alex stood near the woodpile, splitting logs. His movements were controlled, each strike deliberate. The sound of the axe rising and falling was steady and grounding, but his jaw was tense, and his eyes kept drifting toward the ridgeline where the SUV had been the day before. Snow covered the tracks now, but the memory lingered. Max was outside with him, pacing slowly along the cabin perimeter. His thick gray and tan fur stood out in the white landscape, and his breath fogged in the cold air. Max was always watchful now, never settling for long in one spot. He sensed tension not just in the land, but in the humans he was tied to. Inside, Leah sat by the fireplace, her hands wrapped around a mug of hot water. The crackling flames lit her face in warm golds and oranges. She looked stronger today. Not just physically, though she could walk now without bracing on furniture, but emotionally. Something in her posture had changed, less collapsed, more ready. She gazed into the fire, her dark hair falling softly over her shoulders. The bruise on her cheek had darkened to a deeper purple now, stark against her pale skin. She didn't hide it. She seemed determined not to. When Alex finally stepped back inside, Max followed, shaking snow from his coat. He sat beside the couch, leaning slightly into Leah's leg. Her hand slid to his head almost automatically. The touch was quiet and gentle. Alex set the axe by the door and hung his coat on the hook. His posture was reserved, but there was no anger in him now, only expectation. "Talk to me," he said simply. Leah nodded. She set the mug down. Her fingers lingered on the ceramic for a moment before she looked at him. "My last name is Hartwell," she said. The name meant nothing to Alex at first. His expression didn't change, but he was a man who learned before he reacted. He waited. Leah continued, "My family owns Hartwell Industries. Energy, shipping, real estate, telecommunications. My grandfather built it. My father expanded it. My mother protected it." She paused. "And when they passed, I became the sole heir." Alex's jaw tightened, barely. He understood now why the documents in her bag had been sealed, embossed, and stamped with private trust accounts. Not just wealth. Power. Leah looked down at her hands as she spoke. The engagement was arranged, not romantic. Vincent's family was old money. Mine was newer. The marriage would merge our holdings, consolidate control, make the Hartwell-Hale empire unavoidable. She breathed out slowly. "I didn't want it, but no one asked me." Her voice was steady, but her eyes shimmered. Not from weakness, from the memory of being trapped. Alex moved closer, leaning his hand on the back of the chair across from her. He didn't sit. He didn't interrupt. Leah continued. "At first, Vincent was charming, respectful, patient. But when I started questioning the merge, when I asked to postpone, that's when he changed. Possession replaced affection. My choices stopped being mine. Every step I took, someone was watching. Every room had someone listening. I became an asset, not a person." Max's ears twitched, and he rested his chin on Leah's knee, sensing the strain in her voice. Leah's fingers sunk into his fur. "That's when the wheelchair came," she said quietly. "Not because I needed it, because it limited my movement. I was less trouble when I was slow, and he always made sure someone saw him pushing me, so people would think he was caring. Devoted. The perfect fiancé." Alex's expression darkened, not in anger toward her, but toward the image of the man she described. Leah swallowed. "When I tried to end the engagement, he refused. When I tried to leave, he broke the chair. Then he told me that no matter where I ran, I would always belong to him." Her voice trembled once, but she caught it. "So I left anyway. I left with the only thing he couldn't control. Documents proving my legal majority over the Hartwell Trust. If he gets them back, I disappear. If I keep them, he loses everything he built the marriage for." The cabin fell into deep, heavy quiet. Alex finally sat. "You didn't have to lie about your injury," he said. "You already had enough reason to run." Leah nodded. "I know. I panicked. I didn't know who to trust." Alex studied her closely. "And now?" She looked directly at him. No hesitation, no guardedness. "Now I trust you." Max lifted his head and looked at Alex too, as if confirming. The words were real. Alex inhaled slowly, then nodded once. Not an emotional gesture. A vow. "We'll figure this out," he said. "But you need to understand something." His voice deepened, steady as bedrock. "I don't run, and I don't hide. If he comes here, I won't hand you over, but I won't let this cabin become a battlefield either." Leah nodded. "I don't want violence, I just want my life back, Alex leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Then we protect that. Together. Max shifted, placing one paw gently over Leah's foot. The storm outside had faded, but inside, something stronger than fear had begun to take root. Not certainty, not safety, but resolve. A shared one. The sky had cleared, but the cold had sharpened. The mountains around the cabin glowed under the pale winter sunlight, all ridges etched in white, the pines heavy with frost. The storm had passed, but the stillness it left behind was not peace. It was the kind of quiet that warned more than it comforted, the kind of quiet that suggested something was watching. Alex Turner stepped outside with Max beside him, boots sinking into the fresh snow. Max moved ahead, nose to the wind, muscles alert beneath his thick coat. He was 7 years old, strong, seasoned, and trained to read the world in ways no human completely could. He paused often, sniffing the air, scanning the ridge, checking for the smallest disruption in the frozen landscape. Leah watched from the window, arms crossed over her borrowed flannel shirt. Her dark hair hung loose down her back, the firelight behind her making a soft orange halo. The bruise on her cheek had faded slightly, though the memory of how it came to be had not. Her eyes followed Alex and Max with worry, not panic, but a tight uncertainty. She had begun to trust him, yes, but that trust was young and not without fear. Alex scanned the tree line, watching for broken snow patterns, tracks, indentations, anything that didn't belong. He moved carefully, aware of the silence. Mountain winters had taught him that danger did not always announce itself. It waited. It watched. Max paused suddenly, ears forward, tail stiff. Alex stopped too. "What is it, bud?" His voice was low, controlled. Max didn't growl. He didn't bark. He simply stared toward the ridge, body rigid. Alex followed his gaze. There, just at the crest of the hill, one patch of snow was disturbed, sunken, not by an animal. The pattern was too angular, too purposeful. Boot prints, not old, not weathered. Someone had walked along the ridge recently. Very recently. Alex scanned again. No sign of a figure, no sound, just tracks. He exhaled through his nose, slow and steady. Max looked up at him, waiting for instruction. "Not yet," Alex murmured. "We go back slow." Max obeyed without hesitation. They moved back to the cabin with deliberate steadiness, not returning in panic, but in readiness. Inside, Leah stood as soon as Alex opened the door. "What did you see?" she asked. "Tracks," Alex replied, removing his gloves and setting them near the stove. "Someone was watching from the ridge. Not during the storm. Today." Leah's face paled, but she didn't collapse into fear the way she once might have. She steadied herself against the table and asked, "What happens now?" Alex looked at her, not with frustration, but with decision. "Now I make sure this place holds," he said. "If they come back, I want us to be one step ahead." Leah nodded. Alex retrieved a set of tools from a wooden chest near the door. A hammer, nails, a coil of heavy wire, and a roll of thick canvas used to reinforce winter shutters. His movements were practiced, efficient. This was not improvisation. This was the muscle memory of a man who had protected others before. He had been a mountain patrol officer for 7 years. Before that, he worked search and rescue. Before that, military police. He had seen storms, wildfires, fugitives, and grief. And somewhere along the way, someone he cared about had been lost because he hadn't acted fast enough. It was a scar that lived behind his quiet eyes, though he never spoke of it. Leah watched him. "You've done this before?" she said softly. "Yes," he answered. "Someone you cared about?" she asked, voice gentle. He paused mid-motion, then resumed without answering. which was answer enough. She didn't ask again. Max paced the cabin perimeter while Alex worked. He checked windows, doors, the back entrance, the roofline. Not by command, by instinct. Alex trusted him to know when something was wrong long before any human could put it into words. When the shutters were reinforced and the door frame secured, Alex stood back and examined the cabin. "It'll hold," he said. "If they try to rush us, we'll have warning. If they try to watch, they'll see nothing." Leah nodded. "You're protecting me even though you don't owe me anything." Alex didn't respond right away. He took a breath and leaned his hands against the table, looking at her fully. "I don't protect people because I owe them," he said. "I protect them because that's who I am, and I don't change that just because someone lied or because danger came knocking." Leah's eyes filled, not with tears, but with something steadier. Respect, and something more fragile. Hope. She stepped closer, the blanket slipping slightly from her shoulders. "I didn't think men like you existed anymore," she said. Alex held her gaze. "Most people don't find them until they need them." Max huffed softly, as if reminding them both not to get sentimental. Leah smiled, a small, tired but real smile. It changed her face entirely, softening the guarded look she had worn since the beginning. "Can I help?" she asked. Alex studied her ankle. "Do you feel steady?" "Yes," she said. And this time, it was not performance. It was truth. "Then help me inventory supplies," he replied. "If we need to stay put longer than expected, we need to know what we have." Together they sorted through canned food, firewood, water jugs, emergency fuel, blankets, batteries. Max sat close, occasionally nosing a can or watching Leah's movements with quiet evaluation. After an hour, Alex spoke again. "If we need help, I know someone we might call." His tone was cautious, not uncertain, just weighed. "Who?" Leah asked. "A friend from my patrol days. Name's Tom Caldwell, retired sheriff's deputy, mid-60s, gray beard, worn flannel jackets, eyes like someone who's seen more winters than stories, lives down near the frozen lake. He doesn't ask, questions, and he doesn't talk." Leah listened closely. Alex did not trust easily, so if he trusted this man, it mattered. "Do you think you can trust him with my name?" Leah asked. Alex shook his head. "I won't tell him your name, just that trouble is coming, and that I want an extra set of eyes." Leah nodded. "Then yes, let's call him." Alex didn't smile, but there was something like approval in his eyes. For the first time since the storm began, they were not reacting. They were preparing. Max lay down between them, head resting on his paws, holding the line. The mountains woke that morning under a pale, gold-tinted sunrise. The light spilled slowly over the snow-covered ridge, glinting off ice-crusted branches like broken shards of glass. It was quiet. Too quiet. And the quiet didn't feel threatening this time. It felt like something waiting to end. Alex Turner stepped outside just as the first hint of sunlight touched the valley. He stood on the porch, arms resting on the wooden railing, breath forming small white clouds. The air was sharper today, the kind of cold that carried clarity with it. Max sat beside him, posture straight, surveying the tree line. Inside, Leah folded the blanket she had used since the night she arrived. The flannel shirt she still wore hung loose on her frame, sleeves rolled slightly at the cuffs. She looked steadier now, no longer someone who had just escaped, but someone who understood exactly what she was running from. Her long, dark hair fell cleanly down her back. The bruise on her cheek had faded to greenish yellow, a fading reminder of the life she refused to return to. Alex turned back into the cabin. His boots creaked softly against the wood floor. Leah looked up when he entered. She didn't speak, not at first. They had learned to speak after silence, not before it. "Tracks were older this morning," Alex said. "No one came up last night." Leah nodded. "But they're still looking." "Yes," Alex replied. "They won't stop." Leah lowered her gaze, her fingers curling into the blanket. Max walked to her, resting his head against her knee. She smiled faintly and touched his fur. "I wish I could keep him," she said softly. Alex's voice was quiet, steady. "He chose you because you needed help. That doesn't mean he leaves me." For the first time in days, Leah smiled, small, tired, real. The radio crackled. It had been silent for weeks, months even. Hardly anyone used the old mountain frequencies anymore. But the voice that came through now was low, firm, and familiar to Alex. "Turner, you there?" Alex moved quickly to the radio, turning the dial slightly. "Caldwell?" the speaker hissed, then steadied. "I've got visitors down near the frozen lake," Tom Caldwell said, voice rough with age but sharp with awareness. "2 men, 1 SUV, not locals. They're asking about traffic up the ridge. Your ridge." Leah went still. Alex's jaw tightened. "How long?" "Just now," Caldwell answered. "I didn't tell them anything. Just offered them directions back down the mountain. They didn't take them." Alex exhaled slowly. "Understood. Thank you." A short pause. "Turner," Caldwell said, voice lower now, serious. "This doesn't look like something that's going to die quiet." Alex looked at Leah. "No," he said. "It won't." The radio clicked off. Leah swallowed. "What do we do?" Alex didn't answer immediately. He paced once, slow, controlled, thinking. Then he said something she didn't expect. "You said your family didn't know where you were." "No," Leah replied. "I left without telling them. I didn't want them to be pulled into it." Alex nodded. "Call them." Leah blinked. "What?" "Call them," he repeated. "If Vincent is hunting you because of inheritance leverage, your family has a legal upper hand. They have influence, protection, ways to move you quietly. I can defend you here, but I can't change the game. They can." Leah stared at him, the idea hitting slowly, like a thaw. "You're saying I should go back to them?" Alex didn't soften the truth. "If you want to live free, yes." She sat very still. Then she nodded. The old landline phone sat on a shelf near the stove, hardwired, untouched by the storm. Leah's hands shook as she lifted it. She dialed a number she had tried to forget. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a woman's voice answered, warm, strong, familiar. "Leah?" Leah's breath broke. "Mom?" Her mother, Elena Hartwell, was in her mid-50s, graceful, tall, pale-skinned with silver streaks in her dark hair and a voice shaped by boardrooms and heartbreak. Leah looked like her. The resemblance lived in their eyes. "Where are you?" Elena's voice trembled just once. "We've been searching for you for days." "I needed to be somewhere he couldn't find me," Leah said. Her voice cracked but didn't fall apart. "I'm safe. But they found the mountain. You have to move me quietly." Silence. Then, "I'll send a retrieval team. Only ours. No authorities, no public trail. Stay put. We'll be there before dusk." The call ended with no goodbye. Hartwells didn't say goodbye. They acted. By late afternoon, the sound of tires crunching on snow drifted up the ridge. Not an SUV this time. 2 dark, armored sedans, quiet engines, tinted windows. The vehicles were driven by private security, but not the violent kind. These were former Air Force. Steady, neutral men in dark coats who moved with precision, but no aggression. The man who stepped out of the lead car was in his early 50s. Broad-shouldered, short-cropped salt and iron hair, weathered hands, sharp eyes. His name was Marcus Hale, head of personal security for the Hartwell family for nearly 20 years. not connected to Vincent's Hale family in any blood way, just a coincidental surname. Marcus moved with the patience of a man who had once been military and had carried responsibility for others ever since. He approached the cabin slowly, respectfully. No weapons drawn, no demands. Alex opened the door and stood with Max beside him. Marcus met his eyes. "Alex Turner," he said. "Not a question. Recognition. I owe you gratitude. You kept her alive." Alex didn't nod. He didn't seek thanks. "She saved herself," he said. "I just made sure she had somewhere to stand." Marcus accepted that with a slight incline of his head. Leah stepped into the doorway, coat wrapped around her shoulders. She hesitated. Not because she feared Marcus, but because she looked back at Alex. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Everything that had happened in that cabin, every fear, every truth, every piece of trust, lived in that one shared gaze. Leah reached out and touched Max's head gently. "Thank you," she whispered. Max leaned into her hand, eyes soft. Then she stepped outside. Marcus guided her to the car. She didn't look back again. Not out of coldness, out of the kind of feeling that couldn't survive being spoken aloud. The cars pulled away, winding down the mountain road, disappearing into the trees and falling snow. Alex stood there long after they were gone. Max stood beside him. The cabin was quiet again. But it was not empty. Some pieces of people stay long after their footsteps fade. Winter lingered in the mountains longer than it did anywhere else. Even when the towns below thawed into slush and dirty ice, the higher ridges stayed white, quiet, untouched. The cabin sat on one of those ridges, steady and small against the endless expanse of trees and sky. Weeks had passed since the day Leah left in the black sedan, and the world had gone still again, as if nothing had ever happened. Alex Turner lived simply, as he always had. He chopped wood each morning, shoveled snow from the porch, checked the trails, and maintained his radio contact with old local stations no one else listened to anymore. He didn't speak much during the day. He didn't need to. Max was always there. Max had changed too, but in a way difficult to explain. The dog was the same loyal, intelligent German shepherd he had always been. 7 years old, thick coat, sharp amber eyes. But there was something different in the way he watched the door when the wind blew just right. As if he was waiting for a sound he still recognized. Alex didn't ask him what he was thinking. Some things didn't need words. Life returned to habit, routine, steady, familiar. Until the envelope came. It arrived on a gray morning, carried by a mail truck that rarely made the climb this early in the season. The driver, a middle-aged man with laughter lines and a heavy canvas jacket, stepped out and trudged through the snow. "Morning, Alex," he said, handing over a thick, sealed envelope. "Registered mail. Needed a signature." Alex signed. The man nodded and headed back toward his truck, leaving tire tracks that would fade by the next storm. Alex stood in the doorway for a moment, envelope in hand. Max sniffed at it, ears pricking. There was no return address. Inside, the cabin was warm, the fire already steady in the wood stove. Alex set the envelope on the kitchen table and stared at it for longer than he needed to. Then he opened it. A letter, and beneath it, a stamped deed record. Alex unfolded the letter slowly. "Mr. Turner, the outstanding debt owed on your land parcel has been resolved. The title is now held free and clear. There are no liens, claims, or obligations attached. Payment was processed through third-party legal counsel. The sender has requested anonymity. Sincerely, Madison and Clark Legal Group." Alex closed the letter. He didn't move. Max sat beside him, head tilted. Debt. Gone. Just like that. He hadn't told Leah about the debt, not directly, but she must have seen the overdue notices in the drawer, the correspondence stacked near the radio. She had noticed more than he realized. He leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling for a long moment. He wasn't a man who cried easily. He didn't cry now. But something lonelier, deeper than sadness, moved through him. Gratitude. Loss. Something unnameable. He wasn't sure if it was meant as thanks or goodbye. He folded the papers carefully and placed them in the drawer. The next days passed quietly. But something had shifted. Max knew. One evening, while Alex was stacking firewood on the porch, Max trotted toward the edge of the clearing. Not tense, not alarmed, curious. Alex followed him. There, partly buried beneath the snow, lay a small object, wrapped in brown cloth, tied neatly with twine. Alex knelt and brushed snow aside, hands steady but breath held a little too long. Inside the cloth was a small silver tag, no bigger than a coin, engraved with a single word. "Thank you." Alex ran his thumb across the engraving once. Max watched him, quiet and still. "She left this," Alex said softly. Max nudged the cloth again, as if confirming. The forest behind them was silent. The sky was beginning to darken, streaked with deep purple and cold blue. Snow began to fall in slow, gentle flakes. They walked back to the cabin together. Time passed. Days. Maybe a week. Maybe more. Time on the mountain didn't move the way it did elsewhere. Then one morning, just as sunlight was breaking over the ridge, Max stood up suddenly. Not tense, not cautious, certain. He walked to the door. Alex followed silently. Outside, snowflakes drifted lazily through the air, and the world felt soft and new. At the bottom of the path, standing beside a long, dark car, not the armored sedans from before, but something simpler, quieter, was Leah. She wore a heavy wool coat, her dark hair tucked behind her ears, snowflakes caught in the strands. The bruise was gone now. Her skin looked healthy again, warmed by time and safety. Her eyes were still the same, quiet, thoughtful, deeply present. She didn't move toward the cabin, not right away. She waited, letting the moment breathe. Alex stepped onto the porch. Max left him without hesitation and bounded toward her. Leah dropped to her knees in the snow, laughing softly as Max pressed his head into her shoulder. Her voice shook when she spoke. "I didn't know if you'd be here." Alex stepped down from the porch, hands in his jacket pockets. "I live here," he said simply. Leah smiled, a real one, full and open. "I didn't come to stay," she said. "I didn't come to ask for anything. I just needed you to know that I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because it was the only way forward." Alex nodded. "I know." She looked down at Max. "He kept me together those nights, more than he'll ever understand." Max licked her cheek once, solemn and soft. Leah stood, snow crackling under her boots. "You didn't have to protect me," she said gently. "But you did, and you didn't ask for anything, not even once. That kind of goodness doesn't disappear." Alex didn't reply. He didn't need to. Leah took one slow step toward him. "No promises," she said. "No timelines, no dramatic speeches." She paused. "Just, if the road ever leads back here again—" Alex finished for her, voice quiet. "Then I'll be here." They didn't touch. They didn't need to. Sometimes the strongest connection is the one that doesn't break under silence. Leah smiled, soft, grateful, and walked back to the car. Max followed her halfway, then returned to Alex's side. The car pulled away slowly, tires whispering over the snow. Alex watched until it disappeared behind the curve of trees. Max sat beside him. The world was quiet again, but it was no longer the same kind of quiet. It was the kind that holds something warm, something living, something that might return. Sometimes the miracles we ask for don't arrive with lightning or signs from the heavens. Sometimes they come quietly, in the form of a safe place to rest, a loyal dog who refuses to leave our side, or a stranger who offers kindness when the world has given us every reason to stop believing in it. Alex didn't rescue Leah because he was a hero. He did it because goodness still exists, even in the coldest places. Max didn't protect her because he was trained to. He did it because loyalty is a language the heart understands long before words. And maybe, just maybe, God was there the whole time, not shouting, but guiding, whispering, opening one door when another one slammed shut. Life is hard. People can be cruel. The world can feel lonely. But there are still moments of grace. Moments where love, trust, and compassion show up right when we need them most. If you've ever been saved by a stranger's kindness, if you've ever felt God's hand on your shoulder when you thought you had no strength left, then this story is for you. May God bless you. May He watch over your home, your family, and your journey, wherever the road leads next. And if this story touched your heart today, please share it with someone who might need hope. Leave a comment, tell us where you're watching from, and join our family here by subscribing. You are not alone, not now, not ever. God walks beside those who don't stop walking. Amen.